I decided to run for mayor, in order not to have Andrew Cuomo or Eric Adams be our mayor.
Thank you.
They put this statue out in the harbor whose name is Mother of Exiles. It doesn't make any sense that it would be like the fault of trans kids and immigrants.
Exactly.
You're going to have to tell the working families, what are you going to do for them that they would care about?
Yes. Will the Democrats win the House in November?
Yes.
My guest today was a New York City comptroller, the first comptroller ever on the pod. Then he ran for mayor. You will remember him because he finished third place, but maybe the best third place mayoral finish of all time. Now he is the Democratic nominee for New York's 10th Congressional District, and we will hopefully see him in D.C. after November. Please enjoy my conversation with the wonderful Brad Lander. You're our first former comptroller on the show. That's an honor. Might be the last. I don't know how many are on the list.
If you want to focus your podcast on former comptrollers,
no.
First we prefer comptroller emeritus. I was
going to say, is the P? Do you emphasize the P? Some people say like comptroller real quick. And I'm like,
only when you're trying to make it sound silly, like with comptroller emeritus.
Sure,
but
no. Latin
I usually said controller. Yeah. It's actually a totally made up word.
We could do away with it, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
What would you prefer? City
best
planner?
Third place finisher in New York City mayoral history. That's what I go with as
my
introduction these days.
Yeah, made the podium, gave a great assist to Well, no, okay, so you were city comptroller. You ran for mayor. You're now the Democratic nominee to represent New York's 10th Congressional District.
That's right.
That's right. That's amazing. The first time I became aware of you, and it was during the mayor race, and you had a video online where I was like, what the hell is going on? Where you were being arrested at the ICE protest.
Yes.
And I didn't know who you were before that.
So that was just 4 days after I cross-endorsed Zohran for
That was after the
mayor.
cross-endorse?
Those were 4 days apart from each
Whoa.
other.
Okay, I don't think I realized that.
I had had a career in public office for 15 years before that. Served in the city council for a dozen. Served as won a citywide race to be controller. Did that for 4 years, did a lot of battles with Eric Adams, raised a nice amount of money thanks to our matching funds and spent, a few $1 million trying to tell people who I was, had that great ad, eating a hot dog on the Cyclone, but still.
I do remember the roller coaster ad was good.
Before that week, almost no one had any idea who I was. And then that week between the arrest and the cross-endorsement, people.
I feel like I was well aware of who you were.
A little more attention.
Can you explain what you were doing? It was the federal building, not too far from here, I'd imagine, right?
And I've been going almost every week since then. I'll be back in court tomorrow.
That's great. Thank you.
So a couple of weeks prior to that was when things had started changing in immigration court. Even though Trump had been in for a few months, ICE agents only started appearing in the hallways in late May of 2025. And we don't know for sure, maybe this will come to light, why in New York City they were in the immigration court hallways, whereas in other places they tended to be out on the street or at a place where people were shaping up for a construction job. I assume a deal was made between Eric Adams. I do. I mean, I don't have any proof of it, but
but I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, Tom Homan sat there with him and talked about having his hand up his butt, and I think there was sort of a deal that said, in other cities we might be out on the street where it'll get messy.
You're safe in this building.
We'll focus on doing it. Well, that's a federal building. I mean, immigrants are not safe, but it would be less messy maybe for the mayor. I don't know.
There'd be less people able to visibly get in the way
and
obstruct arrests and detentions.
So they had started a couple of weeks earlier grabbing people who had showed up for their immigration court hearings just like they were supposed to, and arresting, detaining them completely lawlessly. It's come out now, almost a year later, that they never had the authority for these arrests, just like we were saying. A federal court judge, Judge Castell, ordered them to stop and noted that they never had that authority. But at the time, there they were doing it. So a number of immigration legal services groups asked folks to show up and bear witness, let people know their rights, accompany people out of the building. If something bad did happen, at least get people's information so you could help get a lawyer that could file a habeas motion to get them out. So I had gone, I think, twice before that week. And those first two times without incident. Each time I had walked maybe 5 people out of the building,
Great.
Shaking with anxiety, but then they got out. And that time was my 3rd time doing it. I had walked 1 person out of the building already without incident, but and then I went back upstairs, met this guy, Edgardo, as he was leaving his hearing. And you could tell that the ICE agents in the hallways had their eye on him.
I see.
And, so we kind of
Locked arms.
and just tried to walk out of the building. And, what I was saying turned out to be right. I said, I want to see a judicial warrant. You don't have a lawful basis to arrest him or me. And they did not have either, but they did both.
And they detained him.
And he was then, they kept me for about 4 hours. They kept him for about 6 weeks, cycled him through 6 or 7 detention facilities until he eventually said, you know what, send me back to Venezuela.
Really?
I do fear for my safety if I'm deported back there, but I fear more for it if I'm
in
here.
this cycle of legal quagmire, I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. Well, thank you for doing that, and I'm glad you're doing that, because it's the kind of thing that it's easy to be online and see all these things happening and be like, oh, Jesus, oh, God, this is terrible, but I appreciate you taking the time to try to help and try to bear witness.
Tomorrow, where I'm going, there's actually 3 different buildings where this in Lower Manhattan that have immigration courtrooms. The docket I'm doing tomorrow is a detained children's docket. I've done this one a few times. So there are in the country several hundred children who are separated from their parents and are being detained by the federal government, even though their parents are here and asking to be reunited.
And what's the purpose
with
of
their
that?
kids. Cruelty.
Yeah.
In a few cases, they've used the kids as bait to get them
to
the
come
parents
to
to
things.
come in, and then detained the parents.
And
Kids as young as 3. One little girl as young as 3 years old.
What do you think people on the right don't like? Do you think people don't understand that this is happening, or why do you think there's so many people in this country that still think that this is like a good move for our country?
Some
like,
people
what do you think the disconnect
still believe the gaslighting that somehow they're targeting people who are
rapists,
criminals. How the little 3-year-old girl fits in, I don't understand. And the vast majority of people have no criminal charges whatsoever.
Yeah.
But yes, when you hear Trump or Stephen Miller talk about it, they're always talking about it as though these are people who are, traffickers of whatever.
Yeah.
And look so, I guess the images that people have from that moment when the border felt out of control. Look at what is happening in Spain right now.
Oh, yeah, with the people from Morocco.
Clearly, some people have this idea that the way you can strike fear into people is to suggest somehow that their borders aren't safe.
Yeah.
But I do have to say what happened in Minneapolis, the more recent killings in Texas and in Maine, people don't like that, and they don't like to see children detained.
Yeah, it shouldn't have to come to that.
It should not.
But it does feel like, personally, I feel like we're at a tipping point where your average American is like, what the fuck are we doing here?
Yes.
Like, and how do we come around from this? How do we change this?
That's right.
And that's what I'm trying to figure out is like, I feel like you see the argument all the time made from people that are kind of okay with what's going on, and they say, well, they're here illegally. They committed a crime. So this is just law enforcement exercising their duties. Like, what do you say to someone who thinks like that? Like,
well, first, what the vast majority of folks did was crossed without a visa or approval in advance. That's not a crime. It's a civil offense. Some people will say, well, my ancestors came the right way. Before 1924, no one came with papers.
Yeah,
so my great-grandparents crossed just like these folks did.
Yeah.
The vast majority, you've got the right to seek asylum if you fear persecution in your country. There's a distinction to make about whether a person actually faces political persecution or is just fleeing grinding poverty and war and a lack of safety and trying to make life better for their kids.
I know.
But if that's what you're so mad about, is that this person is not actually seeking asylum, it's just economic reasons.
It's economic reasons.
They're in grinding poverty and they want their kids to have a better life. That doesn't mean that we can accommodate everyone who comes.
Sure.
But it does mean what's happening to detain people and be so cruel to
It doesn't
them
have to be that
is
bad.
heinous.
Yeah,
and
there
you
could
don't
be a
have
little
to
more
do it
empathy.
like
I think it's
that.
just like scare. It's the scare tactic thing of saying, you could afford a home if there weren't all these people in your state, or if there weren't all these people coming. Like they blame it on they blame the affordability issues in this country on people that are working hard and paying
I
taxes.
mean, this
but
is the authoritarian strategy of scapegoating, and it's
Yeah.
tried and true. If government is failing and people feel like government is failing because they can't afford their housing or their health care or their child care, and Democrats have not done a good enough job addressing those issues and actually delivering for people.
Yeah.
And so someone comes along and says, you're pissed off, and rightly so, and I'm going to tell you whose fault it is.
Yeah.
And of course, it doesn't make any sense that it would be like the fault of trans kids and immigrants.
Exactly.
You know, the housing wasn't affordable
For any of them either. Yeah, we're all in trouble.
Your job, the health care.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. But when people feel precarious, can't afford their lives,
You start
and
to look for
when
something to
you think elites are taking all the money because a small handful of people seem to be getting all the wealth that's being generated. Like, you can see the wealth's being generated, it's going somewhere.
But it's not
and
coming to
you're
me,
mad.
so my life is not turning out the way I want it to. Who
Yeah.
can I blame for it?
You know, they want you to blame immigrants and trans kids so you won't blame billionaires and special interests. And like, that's our job now, is to help people understand what's really going on, change politics so it actually delivers for people. But I think in many ways the good neighbors of Minneapolis have done the best of anyone over the last, 2 years. To remind people who we are, and the fact that after Renee Good and Alex Preddy were gunned down by their own government in the street for nonviolent efforts to protect their neighbors, 10,000 people in Minneapolis signed up to go out and walk the streets and protect their neighbors and walk kids to school. Yeah. And I do think that was an important turning point in helping people say we're better than that.
I agree. I think it was very dark, and it shocked me in a way that it shouldn't have probably shocked me, but it's something that we probably saw coming. And then to see those deaths happen back to back like that, I think that was the moment where I was like, things are going to have to change. Like, people have to wake up at this moment.
And I think it helped that it was in Minneapolis, where they're mostly white and like Midwestern. Like, if it had happened here.
If you're getting them angry, something's hopefully changing, hopefully happening. Yeah. And I think what you were saying about the kind of hiding out in the building here in New York, I think you're right. 'Cause I think if they tried to have mass ICE raids out in the streets here, I think it'd be pretty difficult. Like, I think we're not going to take any shit kind of neighborhood.
When they rolled up on Canal Street on those folks,
taking the purse
and like
sellers and
so
stuff.
many people just stormed out of the stores. They hadn't had any special training. They're just New Yorkers.
Just trying to get them out. No, it was very inspiring.
But I don't know if that would have played as well in the rest of the country.
Sure. Yeah, everyone's gonna have their narrative about people selling Chanel wallets on the street, but I love it.
Correct. I mean, we're New Yorkers.
Come
We
here to
like
get
that.
that
That doesn't
stuff.
look like chaos or disorder to
me, that's
us.
a good Sunday afternoon. Take your parents.
Exactly.
What inspired you to move from controller to mayor? Why did you want to run for mayor? What talk to me about like that decision? Like,
Yeah. Well, it's funny, if Eric Adams had been a normal bad mayor, not even a normal good mayor, just a normal bad mayor, I wouldn't have run for re-election as controller. He was not my choice for mayor. He wasn't on my ballot the first time. I didn't think he would be good.
Either.
But I assumed he would just be a sort of normal bad mayor and
think
would
everyone
sail
thought
to
that.
re-election.
I think
That's
everyone
how
thought
it
that.
usually goes. When the FBI seized his phones, and I don't know if you saw today, or I don't know, today there's video up. He's, I don't know if it's today when the video is from. He's in Wisconsin, fronting to build for data centers, telling these people in Wisconsin that they should shut up and listen to him and these other good-hearted AI data center builders with the same tone he had with people here, as though you would be disrespectful to Eric Adams if you didn't, give a good hearing to these.
He doesn't have enough charisma to continue this grift, to continue just selling out to the highest bidder.
So that's really what motivated me first. I did not think that he or Andrew Cuomo should be the next mayor of New York City.
Yes.
And I asked my pollster, this was as things were shifting and it looked like Adams was going down, but maybe was still going to run, but probably Cuomo was coming in to run.
Yeah.
And people at the time thought he was the presumptive favorite. Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody, knows he's like a bully and maybe a sociopath, but he's just going to win. That was
It was
coming
sort of
still
accepted. It was a real bummer.
out of COVID and then
Yeah.
Trump and, we need an asshole.
That was the
And
energy. Yeah.
that was the energy people had. It's hard to remember back.
No, but
like
but I was
before
living here during the pandemic, and he really ascended to like, he's our guy. Like, he's taking care of us, and he's going to be the next. Like, it did feel like presidential when he was doing those like pandemic check-ins.
So then he had to resign as a result of being a serial sexual harasser. But people still seem willing to just forget that. And I was not. And
Good.
I asked my advisors and put a poll in the field. Can Andrew Cuomo be beaten? And do I, of the candidates who might run, have the best shot? And the poll came back and said yes, and yes. It was hard in that moment to envision the rise of Zohran Mamdani from 1% in the polls to somebody who'd inspire the imagination of New Yorkers and be able to beat him. And I thought it was my assignment to go do my best to give it a try.
Wow.
And so, I decided to run for mayor, in order not to have Andrew Cuomo or Eric Adams be our mayor.
Thank you.
And that at least worked out.
Thank you.
So.
Like, I speak on behalf of many, many, many New Yorkers to just thank you for getting involved and being a good person in the race. I was floored when Mamdani started kind of ascending in the polls. And the tone quickly was like, this guy might be a terrorist. This guy might be a communist. And they're dyeing his beard darker colors in the attack ads, and they're only showing him in traditional garb. And I'm like, what the hell is happening? And I was in like early high school, like post 9/11 world, but it felt like I still remember the kind of stuff that played for comedy and what people were like. And I was like, what the hell's happening? That this man, this I think 34 years old when he was running?
33.
Like, 33, yeah. I was like, what is going on in my New York that this is just playing? And coin toss when you talk to someone at a bar if they're going to kind of agree. And so I was getting freaked out.
Yes. Well, it was, two things were interesting for me. First, when I announced I was running in the summer of 2024, so still, 4 or 5 months before Zohran announced his campaign, the very first article the New York Times ran after I announced was an article that had been planted, I don't know whether by the Adams or the Cuomo people, which was like, Lander is too far left on Israel to be elected mayor of New York City, which did not turn out to be true.
No.
But I understood where that criticism was coming from, and then even more so why this 33-year-old democratic socialist from Uganda, that people thought, oh, he doesn't have a chance, or as he started to be clear, he did have a chance for people to freak out about it and react, yes, in these really Islamophobic ways, in these ways that suggested that if you are critical of Israel, even while you can watch with your eyes what's happening in Gaza, that's, you're going to be blacklisted. And I experienced some of that myself, but much less than Zohran. So that I had a feel for. At the same time, I had a front row seat watching him connect with people, and that was not easy. I'm trying to win this race.
Well, yeah. For those who don't, I think most of my listeners are New Yorkers, but for those who don't know the story, if you can just briefly explain what you chose to do with the cross-endorsement and how the ranked choice vote works.
Well, maybe I'll just quickly go through, So I launch in July, and, again, mostly what people thought was that Cuomo was going to win, and that, all of us who were running didn't have that much chance.
That's how I felt.
But if you had asked people who were in the know, then they would have probably said, yeah, if somebody's got a chance, I guess it's Lander. He could get progressives, but also some more mainstream or moderate voters. Has some experience, could hope, so that was my idea. And there were other people aiming for that lane as well. There were a lot of candidates. It was hard for any of us to break out. And then Zohran entered the race in October, and just, with his charisma, with the videos, with his real focus on affordability. Just kind of was steadily rising from the beginning of the year. And in May, it still felt like Cuomo was very likely to win, but by June, it seemed like, all right, maybe there's a race here.
Yeah.
It was clear to me at that point that I wasn't winning it. And 4 years earlier, when Eric Adams won, that was the first time we had ranked choice voting. And there were two candidates, either of whom would have been a lot better mayor than Eric Adams, Maya Wiley and Catherine Garcia. And a lot of people observed, including me many times during my run, if they had cross-endorsed each other and asked people to rank each
There could
other
have been
one
a
and
better
two.
shot of getting Adams out of the...
Correct, probably. Or, one of the two of them would have had an even... It was a close race. One of the two of them would have had a better shot of running. So I had said that over and over and over again. And
to put your money where your mouth was now. And you're like,
exactly.
Like,
and of course,
where's the ego?
When you say that, what you have in mind is, well, I'll be the one that's in first, and other people will cross-endorse me, and then I'll win. But by this point in June, it was clear to me that wasn't happening. And fortunately, I had some people around me to help and say, hey, we know why you got in this race. You love your city. You don't want him to be mayor. You can see that you're not winning. The right thing to do is to cross-endorse. So we have ranked choice voting here. You can, rank people 1 to 5. And so what I did, and we cross-endorsed, and I encouraged people, still, I hope you'll vote for me, but rank Zohran second. And that worked. And it's, when I did it initially, it really was motivated by a white-hot hatred of Andrew Cuomo and a desire to make sure that he wasn't
I think everyone can agree with the white-hot hatred of Andrew Cuomo.
What I didn't expect at the time, but worked out, in a quite remarkable way, is how much people were moved by it.
I was profoundly moved by it because I was watching all the anger and this guy's kid, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's going to usher us into a terrible era. And I was like, I just don't believe that. I don't buy it. I've never met the man, but I just didn't buy it in the issues and the way he talked to people. And it was so difficult because I was like, but this is what's going to happen. It's Cuomo. Like, I was a real pessimist at that time. So that's why when you did the cross endorsement, I went, well, my God, like a guy who's like served his city for many, many years is saying, no, I actually think we need to like focus on what we're doing here. And it felt, not to use a sports analogy, but it did sort of feel like a Knicks playoff run type thing where you're like, this can't happen, right? Surely we're not going to get out of this and win another, like...
This is so funny because I said, I'm going to connect some dots I haven't connected before because, normal people play team sports all the time.
Yeah.
You'd like to be shortstop, but the coach says we got a shortstop. Would you, play right field?
Yeah.
And you don't say, no, I'm quitting and I'm going to go play tennis or whatever. Like people play team sports, but elected officials and politicians mostly play it like an individual sports game. And the thing in the Knicks run that made me think of this was when Josh Hart was asked, some questions. And he said this amazing thing. He's like, and Josh Hart's obviously a great basketball player, one of the, 100 best basketball players in the world.
Yeah.
But what he said is, I'm a good basketball player, but if I'm option number 1 on the team to score, that team's not winning a championship. And he went on to say, if I'm 2 or 3, but he's like, if I'm 4, then we win.
Yeah.
And so maybe I'm like the Josh Hart of Congress.
I'm
hopefully.
telling you, it felt special. It felt special because it felt like, again, like you said, politics is such an individual thing. You just don't see a lot of like, hey, we're working together until, Congress people work together to pass bills or whatever. But like in the race, in the middle of a race, and everyone knows there was so much vitriol and there was so much, it was just intense. It was just intense because we knew we were at risk of having this guy that we thought shouldn't be allowed in public society, let alone be in charge of the biggest city in America. So it was, I was trying to stay optimistic, but even on the primary night, I saw a musical with my partner and we got out of the show and we were so scared to turn our phones back on. So we were like, we're going to know what happened. We're going to know. Like I'll never forget it. Cause we walked into like a little bar in Hell's Kitchen and the TVs were all on like CNN on mute. And it was like, Mamdani's got he won the prize. And we couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it all worked. And I was like, I hope one day I get to meet you and like be like, thank you and thank him. And like, because it was amazing. It was really, it was a rare moment of like humanity,
It did something powerful. And then of course the dynamic of having a Jewish New Yorker and a Muslim New Yorker cross-endorsed like that is, something I feel proud of. And it does feel like part of what is continuing to move in the city.
Yeah.
You know, grateful to have his support in my race and
Absolutely.
the team sport energy of the Knicks and the World Cup.
It's a good energy in the city right now. And I think everyone can feel it. Everyone's a little more talking to their neighbors, talking to strangers, thumbs up, you know, especially when the Knicks won. That was exciting. Before we move on from mayor stuff, you worked with Eric Adams. What do you think, what's his deal? What's the weirdest thing you've witnessed working with Eric Adams?
Well, he really is, you know, I mean, people haven't seen the videos of like him making that video from when he was state senator, like saying, search your kid's room for guns and drugs.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Like he's just a weird dude. And that was sort of always true of him. And I think he had, I don't know, the way I saw it, he had a kind of Batman complex.
That's a good analogy.
And the thing about the Batman movies is like Gotham never gets better. You don't want to live in Gotham. And in a funny way,
you don't want to rely on Batman.
If Gotham got better, there wouldn't be any more Batman movies. You know,
and then Eric Adams is out of a job.
The next, like you're almost in a funny kind of codependence with the criminals or something. And I feel like that's maybe the vibe he had. So yeah, and you know, there would just it's continued to come to light how much corruption there was in that administration. Had there been a second term, I think it would already be over by now.
I think you're right. I think that was peak corruption in America too, as far as like, because Trump was just getting back into office. Everything felt like no rules matter anymore. It was, I'm telling you, until Mamdani won the nomination, it was sort of feeling like, is anything not bullshit anymore? Like everything felt so like, well, our mayor's doing deals with Turkey or whatever, and Trump's making billions off crypto. It was so hard to be like, who do I look to? Like in the place I live and in the country I live. It was, I mean, obviously there's great local work happening all the time, but it was so like, who's in charge of everything right now? But yeah, you have to be very proud of how Mamdani's been doing with all the pressure and everything. I think it's been great.
Yeah,
really
just to show, like, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to go get busy doing it.
I know.
We're going to make it so your kids could have childcare and your rent's not going up.
It's joyful leadership too. I think people, it's like it reinforces this belief I've always had of like, if someone's operating from a good place and has good ideas, sure, it might seem radical. It might seem radical, especially to like a conservative person. But like, if they just want to go out there and try to help their neighborhood and make their community safer and make it easier to live, it's kind of hard not to be like, I think he's doing a good job. Like no matter what, you can't really poke too many holes. Like, so it's been nice. But let's move on to your race for Congress. So then that's over. You're deciding what you want to do next with your life. You're having conversations with the family, or what's going on? What did you think immediately after the race? Were you like, time to run for Congress, or like what was going on?
But for a minute, I thought,
back in.
Yeah, let me. I mean, it's funny because right away, I mean, I got a lot of attention in those last few weeks between the ICE arrest, the cross-endorsement, Zohran's victory. Plenty of people would come up and offer advice. And yes, a lot of them would say, I'd love you to run for Congress. I've lived in this district for the last 35 years, my whole life in New York. And amongst the people that either supported me or supported the mayor, there was a lot of unhappiness with Dan Goldman, who had not managed to endorse Zohran even in the general election when he was the Democratic nominee for mayor, and who really did, I guess I'd say a couple things. First, it's a progressive district. He's a moderate guy.
Yeah.
And second, the genocide in Gaza is one of the moral tests of this time.
Yeah.
And to fail badly on it was something a lot of people felt strongly about. So I got a lot of encouragement to run. Now, I said, give me a little while.
Yeah.
Let's make sure. Don't forget that at that point, Andrew Cuomo said, I'm running in the general election also.
Yeah.
So I hunkered down to help
we weren't
Zohran
quite in the clear yet.
win the general election. And I said to people, let's focus on that for the fall. But by the time we get to that election, I'll make some decisions about what's next. And then over the summer and especially through the fall, I had a lot of conversations with people and felt like there was a real opportunity here that something needs to change in Washington, that if we could bring the energy that we had forged in the mayor's race to the fight against Trump, to push Democrats to be bolder, to see the affordability agenda and this economic populism as something that could play elsewhere in the country.
I think so.
To bring a more moral Jewish leadership committed to inclusive multiracial democracy and human rights. Yeah, it felt like
a moment.
the right thing to do.
Yeah. Are you excited to live in D.C.?
No.
Yeah. I mean,
I feel like
Brooklyn-
on assignment or
Yeah.
no. I mean, I love and you get to come home every weekend and so no, New York City in general and Brooklyn in particular is home and will stay home. And the job, of course, is to represent your neighbors. I launched the campaign with this Mr. Rogers style ad, which is me, that sort of Dadlander neighborly
you've embraced
vibe.
Dadlander. I think it fits.
That feels like me. It is me.
Yeah. That's the vibe I get 30 minutes talking to you. Yeah.
So no, DC's where we got to go to make some changes in our government.
I hope you can make some changes. I hope you can influence the party, and I think you're heading the right direction. Before we started, you revealed to me what you're wearing underneath your button down. This is a rare shirt reveal on the pod.
Exactly. I'm off to the New York Liberty game
Look at
tonight.
that.
I'm a Liberty, half-season ticket holder.
Why? Wait, half season?
Well, because you buy. I can't.
We gotta commit
go
you
to
to the-
all the games.
No, we got to
would just
commit you
be
to
a
the
lot
full
of-
package. You look great. It's a great Liberty shirt.
So I got my hat, and this is from the championship. Where the Statue of Liberty's wearing the.
Oh, that's fantastic.
In New York's 10th congressional district, the Statue of Liberty, of course.
Is that part of the 10th? Is that
it
technically?
is, yes.
So
if you look at the map right there,
I didn't
Liberty
think about
Island.
that. Yeah, the district is what, like a good chunk of Brooklyn up there, south, like Lower Manhattan.
Yeah, so it's Manhattan below 14th Street, and then
Gotcha.
it stretches from Dumbo and Brooklyn Heights around through
Statue
Carroll
of
Gardens,
Liberty.
Cobble Hill, Red Hook,
Random
closest.
islands on the bay.
Governor's Island.
Oh, you got Governor's Island
Yeah,
too. You got to represent
absolutely.
those spa camps out there. And stuff.
That's a nice spa,
It is a nice spa.
Governor's Island is great. People should go.
Yeah, okay,
but,
that's my one. I will admit I've never been to Governor's Island. I've lived here 14 years. I've never been. I need to go.
That's worth a day trip.
Is it?
Governor's. Oh
Okay,
yeah, it's
get a bike,
fun.
ride around.
Correct.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
It's fun. It's just you're like right out in the middle of the harbor, which is sort of amazing.
Yeah, I do.
And-
I take the ferry to Rockaway a couple times every it and that view coming into the bay it never
And
gets
just
old.
you have that, people like, I don't know if you know, like Walt Whitman's Crossing Brooklyn Ferry, this poem he wrote 150 years ago.
Okay.
There's something like it's your New York inheritance that you're out there on the water and you got this minute of thinking, all right, they experienced it just like I did, headed from Brooklyn to Manhattan or back and forth.
Yeah,
people coming here from all around the world or all around the country.
Yeah. I always feel the impact. Like, again, I'm coming back from a beach day and it's not as, it's not as dramatic, but there's something about coming in that I do always think of the history of it. I go, wow, people, it's hard not to get a little childlike and romantic about the city and just knowing that you're walking by buildings or islands or immigration facilities like Ellis, where you're like, oh, this is where people came in and started their life
here. They put this statue out in the harbor whose name is Mother of Exiles. They put this like copper-plated thing up there to remind us how lucky are you to live in this place that is going to welcome people from all around the world. And even if you get like a fascist president trying to tell you it's zero sum,
we still
you're
going to
say, no, it's New York fucking City.
Yes.
And how great every day is it to be like, okay, when Egypt plays Norway or whatever, there's going to be more Norwegians and Egyptians in New York City
Fireworks
rooting for either
no matter what
team.
happens after 90 minutes.
It's, and then,
That's a beautiful
you
thing.
get to like enjoy that food and that culture and like,
It's the best.
It's pretty great.
If you could fix one thing about New York tomorrow, though, what would it be?
I mean, the housing prices are the thing that are the worst. I mean, they're not. Yeah, I mean, the housing market is broken. The asking price in Manhattan for the average rental apartment is now about $5,500. And if you want it to be a place where young people could imagine they could come and make it in the art scene, or
that's what bums me out. It bums me out because I feel like it wasn't that expensive when I moved here. And obviously, inflation. I'm getting older. I've been here a while, but like but
it
beyond
is
just standard
much
inflation,
the real estate prices have gone
I know.
up way
I get on my
faster than
TikTok and I get these
inflation.
listings that are psychotic, and they're not nice apartments, and they're charging an arm and a leg, and I just go, I don't think I could have come here and tried to do comedy and work
Yeah.
now. I
And
don't think I
other
could
things
have.
are frustrating, other systems are broken,
Sure.
but you're willing to endure.
Because of the opportunity and the
Correct. But if you
culture and
can't
the
afford it, then what does
well,
it
then good luck, kid.
matter that,
Yeah, only if
so
if you come from a rich background or if you have and then what does the city become? You know,
yeah,
and that's what scares me. I'm like, oh,
agreed.
I hope we can get a little easier to live here. But
Yeah, I mean, and I think at least people see it. You
Mhm.
wouldn't have been so clear a few years ago that, housing and affordability in general were a crisis that we needed not just local and state, but national action.
Mhm.
That folks kind of across the political spectrum, there's folks, more focused on let's get some housing vouchers and fix public housing. And there's other folks saying, let's build a lot more housing so
Yeah.
there'd be more opportunities. The mayor has a all of the above approach to these things, which I think
love,
is
yeah.
right. And a challenge is it takes a long time to fix a problem that's
Mhm.
this big. So
People have no patience anymore. So they just see, oh, there's going to be all this red tape and bureaucracy, but it's like things can happen. It's
yeah.
just,
And, I do think that's why the child care is good because that
Yes.
happens much more quickly.
Yes.
In Congress, it seems to me, healthcare has got to be our focus. We could restore the subsidies on the exchanges and the Medicare and Medicaid cuts that Trump and Republicans made. And we could move to Medicare for all
yes.
quickly. And, it's if you live in a society that's so deranged that people are celebrating an assassination, a murder.
Oh, sure.
You denounce it. You say, of course, we don't resort to violence, but you could also
But
say,
when a lot of people are
what
celebrating
is
it,
going
I
on
know.
here? Something is really fundamentally broken, and we could fix it. So,
Yeah.
I think there's things we can do faster term, like deliver on childcare and healthcare,
Yeah.
while we're also gearing up to make more difference on housing, get more housing built. So,
The healthcare thing is astonishing to me that if I mean, I'd be ringing that bell every day if I was in Congress or in any position of power. I just don't understand how we still do this to the point where, yeah, like people are cheering on vigilante assassins. And it's like, it's got to be better. There has to be a way we can stop tying this to employment in a world where so many people are doing like 7 different gigs to get by, where no one's getting guaranteed health insurance
and
anymore.
I feel like when they tried to do it back in Obama or back in Clinton, somehow it's, the health insurance companies ran a campaign to make it seem like you didn't want to lose your current health insurance and make you afraid. But now
Yeah.
I can't imagine there's one person who thinks, what I really is adding value to my life is my health insurance
Yeah,
company.
I think everyone's right.
People can see those folks are just making money by
Yeah.
denying me care, making life miserable for my providers and my
Gotta step into
doctor,
the
my
future
hospital.
there. It's
So
got to happen in my lifetime. I can't keep watching this
I
get kicked
agree.
down the road.
And I think, as we've got a job to do making showing what Congress can deliver, how we can hold people accountable, how we can fight and make a difference in the budget. But as our presidential candidates start to suit up for the 2028 race, they are gonna have to make some promises that are bold enough for anyone to
shoot
care.
for the moon. I think
And
shoot
really
for the
think
moon.
this is,
I don't think this is the year to be like, well, we promise we won't be Trump. It's like, well, you're definitely not going to be Trump, but what are you going to be? And I think that's what gets people like the average American so annoyed with the Democrats right now is it's not they're not throwing Hail Marys anymore. They're just like running the ball 3 times and then punting.
You're gonna have to, you're gonna have to tell the you working families what are you gonna do for them that they would care about.
Yes.
And I mean the kinds of promises that the mayor made here and is working on. Yes, like we're gonna deliver good health care to you that's not dependent on whether you have a job or not. You might be a gig worker, you might have to work a couple of jobs, but at least we can pay for your health care. We're going to dramatically expand childcare. So if you have kids, you're not spending the first 5 years, paying $25,000, $30,000.
I know, my God.
We're going to put the government on the side of working families and not on the side of wealthy special interests and billionaires. People are hungry for it.
People are bloodthirsty for it. That's what we're learning. So it's like let's give them some stuff so it doesn't turn into bedlam in the streets. It's
Correct.
It's like we're right there. We all want better things, but I think you nailed it. I think that's exactly what the message needs to be, especially in 2028. What's something you think the government does really well that doesn't get talked about enough?
Well, in New York City, the fact that the subway, carries everybody around, it's
marvel.
No, I'm not saying that we can't make it better.
We can definitely make it better.
We can make it better. That is pretty incredible.
No, you're right. Do you think it'll ever be free? The subway? Think we'll ever get there?
Let's go for free buses first, I guess.
I want free trains.
I think free transit would be great. I mean, a problem we have here, and this is part of what I'm going to go fight for in Washington, most places in the country don't have subways, and so getting the federal government to help with a free subway program, I think, is going to be hard.
Big train money. Yes.
So I'm going to go try to make sure we get some more, so at least we can offer better transit and don't have to raise the prices to do it. One other thing I think we need to pay a lot more attention to than we are is our public schools, where I don't think people, recognize how extraordinary an investment it is that we, take our tax dollars and then educate all our kids.
Yeah.
And that is going to need such a transformation in the era of AI.
Scares me.
Yeah, it's a scary time, but it's a time to refocus on, okay, what would you want kids to learn?
Yeah.
How will they learn to be creative and critical and
how old are your children?
Mine are 24 and 27.
Okay, so they're done.
Yeah.
They're probably done being educated. I don't know what their plans are, but
we'll see.
They got through the public high school.
Correct.
Yeah. And I think about that all the time because my friends, I'm in my mid-30s, all my friends are starting to have kids, and I go, what's their education going to look like? It's going to look different than ours, that's for sure. It's going to look different than your kids look like.
A lot different.
And I just think, with the rise of AI and the cuts to the Department of Education that have been happening, I just don't know. I fear a world where it becomes again, highest bidder gets to send their kids to this excellent school, and the rest of the schools are passing around one pencil they all get to share.
This is so within our hands. It's easy to be a doomer about this.
And I'm not trying to be a doomer.
No. But look, it seems pretty clear to me that the next generation of students, for example, are going to read and write less than, my generation read and wrote. So much more is visual, is video.
And tech, and
That doesn't mean they have to be stupid, It really doesn't. We
can teach critical
thinkers, really creative and imaginative, collaborate with other people. We would have to commit that we were going to teach them that we weren't going to just sell their education to AI overlords.
Yes.
We could decide, we assign all the kids to all the schools. We could decide that it isn't going to keep being so segregated and bifurcated. In Brooklyn, where when I was a council member, we decided to integrate the middle schools of our district, and it's worked great.
What does that mean, integrate the middle schools?
So, the elementary schools are done by neighborhood, and so they're somewhat more segregated because housing prices drive kind of who can live in the area.
I see.
But the community school district, District 15 it's called in Brooklyn, includes Red Hook and Sunset Park and some lower income neighborhoods and Park Slope and Carroll Gardens and some higher income ones. But the middle schools were still very segregated because we were basically letting the schools pick the kids.
You have to test in, right?
We ended that. Now it's by lottery.
Oh, great.
And the middle schools are dramatically more integrated.
Great.
A lot less segregated than they were. And they're working well. So we can make choices like that.
Yeah.
And that's why we're fighting and organizing so.
It's a refreshing attitude because it's so easy. I think people my generation and younger go online and just see bad news. But talking to you even for this short amount of time, I'm I feel very oh yeah, you're right.
And this is the challenge. It seems to me we have a really interesting political challenge because we need to channel the anger that people have. It is
and it's rightful. It's rightful anger.
Correct.
Yeah.
We are the benefits of the economy are being sucked up by a tiny handful of people who are then just feeding us back like slop.
Yeah.
And damn the consequences for the climate, for democracy, for working families, for affordability. That's happening, and it is a right to be pissed off about and organize. But you do also need a belief in the possibility that government could be a vehicle for
Or yeah,
bringing
then you
people
just become
together to
so
make change.
cynical and you don't get involved, you don't
And yeah,
volunteer, you don't,
that's
yeah.
so yeah. And I do think what's moving in New York right now
It's sort of a
suggests it's possible.
spreading out, you
Yeah.
think? Yeah, yeah. I want to very briefly talk about Israel, which I know is not a fun sentence that everyone always wants to get into, but just I think it's worth talking about with you.
Agreed.
And I want to read something that I saw on your website just very quickly, so
Yeah.
just bear with me. But I thought this was important. Brad is a proud Jewish New Yorker who believes in the vision of a Jewish and democratic Israel. He was horrified by Hamas's attack on October 7th, and in the aftermath, he joined weekly vigils with Israelis for Peace, calling for the return of the hostages and a ceasefire. But he also believes that Israel's destruction of Gaza was a genocide, and that the U.S. should stop providing military aid to Israel while it violates international law and Palestinian human rights. He has called for an end to Israel's occupation of the West Bank and Gaza and the removal of Israeli settlements for over 3 decades. I think that is so well said. I think it's a strong, nuanced stance. So my question for you is, why does it feel so difficult for like the Democratic Party to kind of just say like, this is a complicated issue. We're not going to get everything right. We're going to watch as things develop, and we just need to do our best to protect people. Why can't more people have that opinion? What is stopping that is what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah. Well, first I'll say nothing's stopping it. So like
Yeah.
let's pull more people on side. Things are changing very rapidly right now. I mean, after, many years of people just not looking at Palestinian suffering and continuing to give Israel unconditional support. That was happening long before October 7th.
Yeah.
I mean, Israel's occupation of the West Bank and Gaza began in 1967. It's interesting. Sometimes Jews will cite Martin Luther King, who also, was in some of his speeches supportive of Jewish and democratic life in Israel. But in 1967, like 6 weeks after the Six-Day War, he knew that Israel needed to either give back the West Bank and Gaza or make it possible for Palestinian people to have self-determination and freedom. And yet for 70 years, there has been this occupation and just an ignoring of Palestinian human rights. And that has shifted dramatically. And, you can imagine a different world where after October 7th, if Israel had said, look, of course, we're going to go after the Hamas terrorists who murdered our people, but we're also going to try to figure out a path forward for Palestinians and Israelis to not just have endless war and killing each other, instead of saying, well, we're just going to take this as license to do whatever the hell we want and level the place. Maybe something different would have been possible. But now, 2.5 years later, people have watched, and at this point, the Democratic primary voters and the American people are saying we don't want to keep sending money for Netanyahu's wars. Now, the pendulum then sort of swings very rapidly in the other direction, and then it becomes easy to say, well, now I'm just on the side of the Palestinians, and, that's how it will be, instead of saying, okay, yes, of course we need to end Palestinian suffering, to rebuild Gaza under Palestinian leadership, to flood in humanitarian aid, to stop settler terrorism in the West Bank, to end Israel's now occupation of Lebanon. But also, that's because we believe in everybody's right to self-determination and freedom and safety, Palestinians and Israelis. And people have gone through hideous conflicts and come out to the other side. They did it in Northern Ireland, even though it seemed like, Catholics and Protestants would not be able to. And even in South Africa, when the end of apartheid came, white South Africans were not murdered in their beds. They found a way to reconciliation
And coexist.
grounded in the idea that everybody's human rights and self-determination has to be respected. So that is the only, to me, like the only possibilities here are endless war with back and forth, violence and killing, or a pathway to saying everybody there deserves human rights and safety and self-determination and freedom. And for American Jews, this is a challenging moment.
Yes.
People are so used to identifying with Israel, seeing that as a critical part of our identity. And I think that, that's, there's some people that are going to say, my project is here. I'm American.
Sure,
I want to
sure.
fight for, rights here. But there's also going to be people who say, okay, I care about that place.
Yeah, and
But
I think
if
that's a
it's,
reasonable way to feel. I'd imagine it's a very bad conflict inside.
I mean, it's the way I feel. So, because I'll be honest, I feel some complicity in that genocide. Even though I've been calling for an end to Israel's occupation
Sure,
of the West
sure.
Bank and Gaza for 30 years, if you identify with that place, if you consider yourself in any way, some kind of Zionist, meaning you believe in Jewish life there, then you have to look and say, I'm going to grapple with what's happening honestly. And to me, that's not different than your responsibility as an American to
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
I'm going to grapple with, the transatlantic slave trade. I'm going to grapple with the
Yeah.
genocide of Native Americans. And my answer isn't abolish America, but it is fight every day for it to be and do better. And to me, that's how I approach the situation there as well. I don't think Israelis will be safe until Palestinians are free, and vice versa. And speaking up about it, like, it's not going to work if everyone just thinks the world's divided into two sides and you got to pick one or the other.
Yeah.
You
Well,
can,
I'd imagine it's difficult for someone in your position as a Jewish American, as a Jewish New Yorker, to even just say those things on such a platform. Like, I'd imagine you get some flack, right?
Well, I get a lot of flack.
Yeah.
And from both, I mean, more from my right, more from the center and the right, more
Sure,
from Jews who feel like
sure.
I'm some kind of traitor to our people. Now,
Does that make you feel like hurt, or do you kind of just go, well, I feel like I morally know what I'm talking about, or how do you reckon with that?
yeah, well, I try to say a few things to people. First, Jews have been having many of the same arguments for 2,600 years.
Yeah.
There's always been a strand that is more nationalist, more identifies with the land, that
Sure,
wants,
sure.
stronger walls and better slingshots or guns or bombs. That has been there. But there's also always been a strand that says, I imagine it like this. The first time Jews were, pulled into exile or diaspora was in Babylon in 586.
Okay.
King Nebuchadnezzar had sacked Jerusalem and taken most of the people back to Babylon. And we mourn that on Tisha B'Av, the destruction of the first temple. And clearly there were some people that were like, we got to get back to Judea. And when we do, we'll need stronger walls. And, then I think there were a set of people that looked around Babylon, which was a much bigger, more cosmopolitan city, and said, have you seen that they have nightclubs and comedy, clubs here? And
Should we do an open house tomorrow?
They don't let the Jews in till after midnight, but all the best stuff is playing after midnight anyway.
Yeah.
And many of them stayed. And as a result, we have the Babylonian Talmud and this tradition of diaspora that says you could make a place better by fighting for your rights here. And pretty interesting things happen when you do that. And, the diaspora that Jews have had all around the world, from Babylon and Baghdad to, Cordoba and Morocco to Poland to New York City.
Yeah.
And there are times when that can get scary and you got to stand up for your rights and defend yourself. But there are also times when that shows the real contribution that you can make. And so sure, I get people who attack me as some kind of traitor to our people, but I'm pretty sure that, the way to build a flourishing Jewish presence, wherever it is, we've got this commandment, you welcome the stranger because you were strangers in Egypt. And like, that's one of the deepest Jewish commandments to me, is to kind of recognize everyone is created, B'Tselem Elohim, in God's image. So that's a very Jewish thing to fight for.
No, it's
I'm
great.
going to keep fighting
That's
for
great.
it.
I learn a lot talking to someone like you about this, because it's like, I'm not Jewish, so I follow this all from the outside as someone who reads about this issue and pays attention. But I don't believe people are, any type of person is a monolith. I don't believe groups of people are monoliths. And when you spend so much time on the internet, when most of your work is on the internet, you just sort of see the monolith. It's this side or it's this side, and oh my God, fuck you if you're not on my side. And it's nice to hear different nuanced opinions from people who are in the mix and have, you know.
And at some level, you know, it's like, if you just like, yeah, you're right online, but you can tell people who aren't going to compromise on anyone's humanity.
Yes,
you know, so you
yes.
don't need to have every political solution. You know, we can debate about whether there should be in Israel and Palestine one state or two and how you get there. But it's like, I'd like to be with people who aren't going to compromise on anybody's humanity, who aren't going to think my people, my kids are worth more than those folks' people. It's messy, but we're going to have to figure it out together.
It's messy, but I do believe we're capable of figuring it out. So, great. We wrap every episode with getting some predictions on the record.
All right.
No wrong answers, but, you know, maybe they'll come true. Maybe down the road.
Well, there might be wrong answers.
There could be
They're predictions. They will be very
there
testable.
There could be some really good right answers, though, so you never know. Okay, we'll start with it's a little tricky one. Prediction. Brad, will Elon Musk be arrested in the next year? And if so, what would the crime be?
Wow. I mean, he is guilty of crimes. So, but whether...
You said that with such, like, you've read a private dossier.
But whether he'll be arrested for them, like...
I think he will be.
Interesting. He, you know, so when I was controller, we objected to a whole bunch of things his companies were doing. And in fact, what they did was most corporations play by the rules of Delaware. That's where most corporations are. And it's not like they're great for workers or investors, but they are the rules people have historically played by. He moved his companies to Texas.
Yes, I remember that.
In order to not have to play by the same rules everybody else played by. And so that's a guy who thinks the rules don't apply to him. And I'm sure there's many ways he's broken them. So I think he will eventually get arrested. But if I have to bet yes or no in the next year.
The next year is tough because Trump will still
say
likely
no.
be in office.
Correct.
And you're like, yeah. I get no. I think yes, just because I'm an optimist about some things. And I'm like, I need a win.
I mean, I hope yes,
I need a win.
but if I'm forced to predict, I'm going to say not in the next year.
He's too caught up with NASA now. He's too they can't put him in jail because he's like our space program. He's like our cars. He's too many things, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, but he'll go down someday, but I think it might take more than a year.
Okay, Brad, prediction. What will be the next trendy thing people line up for in New York? I feel like right now, it's frozen yogurt right now. I feel like everyone's lining up for frozen yogurt.
Well, I'm going to try to sell my product. So on Subway Takes.
Oh, what's your Subway
take? I tried to persuade Kareem that what he and everyone else wants is a sparkling iced coffee, a fizzy iced coffee. Which I brew. It's like
you make your own?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, cold brew is just like it's like making brewing an iced coffee like you'd brew iced tea.
Yeah.
You'd take if you put it in a pitcher of seltzer, great.
What's the name of your business, Brad? What's the fizzy?
Fizz.
It's just fizz.
Yeah.
Might have to see if it's already taken, but there's something there. Yeah, I feel like it wasn't this way either when I first moved here. Of like, there's so many places, we were talking about it before you came in, of like, you walk by people in line for things and you're like, what's going on here?
Now, yesterday,
and you get closer.
If you want another, what's the most recent thing I've helped people wait in line for? Yesterday, my daughter and I, we're members of the Gowanus Dredgers.
Don't know what that is.
That is the Gowanus Canal Canoe Club.
Oh my God.
And you can, for free,
careful, Brad, we need
on
you.
Saturday morning.
Careful.
We did it. I did it Sunday morning, yesterday morning, and you can do it again next Sunday morning. Every Sunday in August, you can, for free, come and canoe the Gowanus Canal.
Oh my God.
And I can't say there were long lines, but I did get to help a good number of people take their kids out in a canoe on the Gowanus Canal. It's like the stretch of the canal that you can canoe if you're a member, you can actually go out in the harbor, and
that's kind of cool.
Pretty great. But yeah, it's about a mile, I guess.
They've cleaned it up that much that you're just canoeing in there now?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't bathe in it. I wouldn't drink it. I wouldn't jump in.
You would
But
just sit between
if it
an inch of
splashes
plastic and
on
it.
you,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you can get some hand sanitizer
Well, that's
right
fun.
afterwards.
I don't spend enough time in the Gowanus area, let alone I got to get in the water.
Come check it
That's
out.
what I'm missing
Yeah,
out.
exactly.
Okay, 2 more, and then we'll get you out of here. I know you got a game to go to. Over under 10 times. How many times before the end of the year will the Iran war be declared over?
Wow. Over 10 times. Yes, I think.
It's gotta be
if we
over.
count how many is it already?
Where the count right now has got to be like 10-ish.
Yeah.
I think another 10 are in store.
I think I mean, whatever. Donald Trump lost that war by starting it.
Correct.
It's interesting. He's so used to making his own reality, right? Gaslighting
Yeah.
is like his coin of the realm, and he can just tell you,
Yeah.
your eyes don't
Yeah.
believe what they're seeing.
Something's coming,
And
you
he
just
just
haven't seen it yet.
expected that to happen.
It's kind of wild to see it just not go anywhere. I mean, beyond the destruction, the horrors of it, it's just like, it is crazy that we're clearly on like week 8 of just, I guess we're still doing this, and there's no sign of relief. But it's the promises that drive me crazy. It's the it'll be over tomorrow. We're talking to him again. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, there's no reason. I mean, obviously, there's no reason to believe anything he ever says. But here, he sometimes he's lying, but he's got a plan or something.
It's the great gaslighting. It's the great way to be like, it's not over because I haven't told you what I'm working on. It's like, this is secret, but there's no secret. So you're like, all right, let us know when you're done with that, I guess.
Yeah.
But okay, and lastly, prediction, Brad. Will the Democrats win the House in November?
Yes.
You think?
I don't
trust
take
you.
it for granted. We're going to have to work hard all
Yes.
the way through the fall.
Yeah.
These things are connected. I mean, people are watching Donald Trump, take us into and keep us in these reckless, illegal, unjust wars. It's clear he doesn't give a damn about the American
Yeah.
people suffering, gas prices that he said he was going to do something about the prices of things. And he has done something about the price of things, drive them up further.
Yeah.
And if you just add like these reckless, illegal, unjust, stupid wars, the fact the prices just keep going up and up. And not only is he not doing anything about it, that Congress passed this housing bill that he wouldn't even sign.
Yeah, that drove me crazy too. It's like, we can't get anything done while you're here. It's like,
Correct.
God.
I mean, he's stopped pretending to care about people, and
hopefully there's a
I
response,
think
and hopefully we
enough
see a response.
people, and we need there to be, because sadly gerrymandering means that we start at a disadvantage. But I'm confident that disadvantage is big enough. So we got to be out there, knocking doors, raising money. We got some exciting candidates.
I agree.
We're gonna have to keep pushing to win. Hopefully the Senate as well as the House. And then we're going to have to hold ourselves accountable for actually delivering something that people could give a damn about.
Great, Brad. Thank you. This was lovely. Is
Fun.
there anything else you want to say before we go our separate ways?
Liberty.
Go Liberty.
I don't,
Let's get the
I don't know.
championship
Yeah,
this
I don't
year.
know that they're on the path for
Not as good of a season this year, but,
championships. I mean, the Knicks win still is so good.
Still riding that
we
high.
could just keep riding that.
Yeah. Well, you're a great guy. Thank you for taking the time. Brooklyn and Lower Manhattan and Liberty Island are lucky to have you. So thank you. This is really
appreciate it.
wonderful.
This was great.
Appreciate it, Brad.
Thank you.